just to the angle that you're talking about. One angle seems to imply that there is a world outside of you.
Sure.
It acts and performs in incredible detail and precision that you cannot grasp.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it's just these are all illusions, and it's nothing. Boils down to nothing but just the energies, and they have no patterns.
Sure.
And just the totally seems to be random.
Sure.
Right. And these two notions of it, sometimes it just creates so much confusion. I mean, which side you are? But I guess it's. I think if I get to your point right, is there is no right answer. There is no final version. It's just there's no either or, right?
Yeah, they're both true in their own context. It's like asking, is an electron a particle or a wave? Well, the answer is yes. Well, how can that be? If it's a wave, that's not a particle. If it's a particle, it's not a wave. It's not like that. It can act just like a particle. It can act just like a wave. And if you don't like that, it's not the electron's fault. It's your problem. The electron doesn't give a shit. It has no problem at all being like that. But this is measurable. It's observable. You can repeat the experiment again and again and again, and you'll come up with, well, electrons can behave exactly like a particle or exactly like a wave. And wow, that's weird. Okay, it's weird. So electrons are weird. Cool. Big discovery.
Yeah.
But this is weird.
Yeah. But the approach that scientists take is an approach that assumes that there is a world outside of you, and you can see it, and you can feel it, and that sort of thing, right? I mean, that's the whole world of the science.
Yeah.
And the fundamental assumption, that's how they're approaching it. Whereas spiritually, in a way, that it's the opposite.
Well, ideally, it shouldn't be the opposite, in my opinion. The problem with the materialist scientific approach is they are denying a very important quality, which is that everything they're measuring exists in experience. So all physical properties exist in experience. They exist, sure. They're there, sure. They're measurable, sure. But all that occurs within experience. And to just assume that that's irrelevant is a pretty big assumption. And I think it's unwarranted. So the fact that it occurs within experience may be a neutral condition that doesn't actually affect the measurements, but it may not be. And so I think that science is cheating by excluding such a major fact. To just assume that objective events are objective, even though an objective event has never been actually experienced. No human being knows that objectivity exists because we experience it to the extent it exists, if it does, through subjectivity. And you can't deny that. That's completely obvious. So objectivity has never been found, and yet science jumps to assuming that it is actual and assumes that subjectivity is just irrelevant and transparent for the purposes of their investigation. And I think that's a bold assumption. And I think they're taking liberties making that assumption. But if you look at well, what you're looking at is experience. When you look at objectivity, manifestly you're looking at experience. There may or may not be an objective world, but we can't access it. All we can access is our experience, right? So when we're doing measurements, the measurements are occurring where? Within experience. When you build a cyclotron, where's it being built? Within experience. So you have to acknowledge that that is the case, because it is. It's self-evident that that's the case. And to assume it doesn't matter is a big assumption. Maybe it doesn't, but maybe it does. Maybe it's of the essence. But anyway, more simply, I go back to what we said a few minutes ago, which is that every aspect of the way this appears is a viable way is manifestly and obviously a way that it can seem to be. Clearly, it seems to be all this detail and elaboration that we experience in our sense fields. Clearly, all of this occurs within our sense fields, i.e. within our experience, within consciousness, whatever. So all of these factors are true, and it's also true that it can appear as other things. You know, what happens, what does the world look like when you go to sleep? Well, it disappears. That's interesting. So the whole objective world disappears when you go to sleep. Okay. Simple fact. Statement of facts. You know. And then new worlds appear when you start dreaming. Interesting. And then those worlds disappear, and then this world appears. Interesting. If it is this world, calling it this world is kind of arbitrary. So the point is that all of that is describable as being observable, and what it actually is an open question, and that's really the interesting question: is what is it? And the common denominator is what is experience, and this leads us to, well, what is experience? Experience is the appearance of patterned energies in consciousness, let's say. You know, and then what are the energies made of? You know, what is the consciousness made of? How does the dynamism of that work? How do these energies appear? How do they disappear, if they do? You know, what's going on there? And we can experience that very directly and explore it.